Let's talk jam and other things. Hey everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Recently, Meghan Markle released a synopsis of sorts of her American Riviera Orchard Montecito branding and the potential show that she's going to be doing with Netflix. I say potential because it would seem a lot of things that she has announced, she's kind of jumping the gun on. For example, her podcast with Lemonada. It was re-released on Lemonada, but immediately the announcement that she was going to have a new original podcast with Lemonada also sometime this year was quickly contradicted or walked back, however you want to look at it, as Lemonada has now announced they're not going to release any original content with Meghan Markle this year. That is something that has been pushed back to next year, if ever. So far with Netflix, this show that she's doing with them, it's just been an announcement. We don't know for sure when, if ever, this will actually happen. Regardless, the sort of vibe or plot, if you will, for this show is supposed to be something that will celebrate the joys of gardening, cooking, entertaining, and friendship. This, once again, is really clunky. It's not easy to say or remember, in part because she kind of missed the golden rule of marketing and branding, is that you kind of want to do things no more than sets of three. When you go past three things or three sort of subjects, then it tends to get a little overwhelming for the viewer and it clouds the brand itself. Keeping it to three prevents it from becoming the mouthful that is gardening, cooking, entertaining, and friendship. That's a lot. And it comes across a bit broad. How is a show that's typically somewhere between maybe 20 minutes and 60 minutes at most going to encompass all four of those things in a balanced manner? It's probably not. If she had kept it to gardening, cooking, and entertaining, or friendship, it kind of implies both of those things anyway. If you were to keep it to friendship, that does imply that you're going to be entertaining your friends because you're also going to be cooking. If you were to keep it to entertainment, it does imply it's going to involve those friends or friendship to some extent, because who else will you be entertaining? So the point is that it's also kind of redundant to include both entertaining and friendship. It didn't need to be added into the mix. It just kind of muddied it all up and is yet another marketing mistake when it comes to this American Riviera Orchard Montecito. Can it get any more difficult to say or communicate about this brand at all? I don't think it can get any harder than this. This is really consistent with Meghan Markle, though. She tends to overdo everything. She overdoes the way that she dresses. She overdoes the way that she announces things. She overdoes the way she writes letters. She overdoes her branding, and she overdoes her announcements. She seems to announce things before the other people in the party are really ready to. Most of the time, businesses really don't like it if you announce something ahead of time. Take, for example, the Dior sponsorship with Duchess Dior and all of that noise that went on. I have a video about that I'll link for you guys, where Meghan Markle announced these things before any talks had occurred at all. Brands really don't like stuff like that. Until something is signed and you have the go-ahead where both parties agree that it's time to announce something and everybody's ready and on board to announce it, it's really poor taste to make any announcements or leaks. And in this case, I think that there's a chance she leaked some of this ahead of time. A lot of people have been wondering, why exactly does Meghan leak these things? And the timing of her leaks is almost always suspicious. It almost always is kind of riding on the coattails of the real royals and something significant that they have going on in the media. For example, American Riviera Orchard, you'll remember, was announced as its big launch, its first Instagram drop, so to speak, debuted right before Prince William took the stage to honor his mother at, I believe it was the Diana Awards. Prince Harry was also speaking via video link or video chat at the same event much later in the evening. So it really didn't make sense for her to try to steal the limelight away from that day, and that is what it looks like. When you don't announce something on your own day, when nothing else significant is going on in the news cycle, then it does look like you're trying to steal away some of the shine, steal away some of the headlines. And this is something that's pretty well documented with Meghan as well. For example, Queen Camilla had a significant speech to make. I believe it was for a domestic violence charity or organization. And Meghan Markle went and did some sort of unscheduled surprise visit that day that stole away some headlines. And it was really poor taste. It did take away some of those headlines, and it ruffled feathers because it had been asked of Meghan and the other royals to not hold engagements on that day so that this important cause could be highlighted. It's something that she has done consistently since joining the royal family. But there's another aspect to it that a lot of the times the media misses. Meghan Markle, by releasing something or making a statement on the same day that other royals have something significant in the media, means that people are actually looking at royal news. And like it or not, Meghan Markle still does crop up in the royal news section of the news outlets. Things that Harry and Meghan are doing completely independent of the royal family, those articles are still listed in royal family sections of media. Where else are they really going to go in the news organizing and news files but with the royal family? So, for example, on a day where King Charles or Queen Camilla or Prince William have something in the news, Meghan Markle releasing her stuff on the same day ensures that the public at large is perusing the royal family section of the news outlet that day to see what the real royals are up to, and by chance we'll see what Meghan Markle is up to. So it's a strategy that's not always necessarily directly trying to steal away the headlines, but rather, as we've said before, ride the coattails. She may not get as many eyes on her articles or news pieces on her own on some random day. People won't be perusing the royal family section of the news outlet just because Meghan Markle has announced jam, but they will be doing it because Prince William is giving a speech or there's an announcement about King Charles. And so Meghan getting in on those same days ensures that her articles are in the mix on a high traffic day, so to speak. Back to the jams and the show, supposedly. Besides this marketing mistake of making it a really clunky, uncoordinated, four-pronged approach to the show, a lot of people have mentioned and drawn parallels to Goop or Martha Stewart's brand. And there is no denying that she definitely is taking a lot from those brands. But with this synopsis, if you can call it that, of including entertaining and friendship, gardening, and cooking, I immediately thought of Ina Garten. I totally see the Meg wanting to emulate Ina and her shows, which have been very successful, and her cookbooks are always really successful too. Her shows specifically do have a heavy emphasis on her own garden. She oftentimes in a show goes and picks her own herbs from her own garden and things of that nature. And also, most of her shows, in fact, some of her series, are exclusively focused on friends or entertaining, often preparing a meal or a party for her and Jeffrey's close friends. So Ina's show is very much so focused on those four things already. So I could see the Meg trying to pick up on that same aesthetic and vibe because Ina is one of the most liked and popular Food Network stars and one of the most successful too. And she's been in the business a long, long time. There are two big issues with this though. Martha Stewart and Ina Garten, as well as others, have put in so much work to develop their brand, their craft, shows and cookbooks and other things. The Meg simply does not have a background in homemaking or cooking in a professional capacity the way the other cooking show hosts have. Also, a huge part of these successful women's appeal and their success in and of itself has everything to do with likability and relatability. Martha, Ina, Hayata, Nigella, and others have a wide appeal and are very likable. They come across as genuine and they have a natural charisma that helps viewers connect with them, and they feel like they could try the recipes that the host is showing. And that is a really important element to these types of shows. If you're watching a show and it's ingredients you've never heard of before and stuff that's really expensive and inaccessible to you, you're much less likely to try that recipe yourself and try to seek out those ingredients and invest in that yourself, especially if you don't connect with the host at all. If you don't find the host particularly likable and you don't really vibe with them, then you're definitely not going to try out their recipes or their products. You're just not. So cooking shows uniquely depend way more than other shows on the likability of the host and the charisma of the host. A viewer being able to see themselves in that host and think, even if it's an ingredient I've never tried to cook before, or a recipe that seems intimidating, or a technique that's new, they'll still try it if they have that strong connection with the host and really see themselves in the host and think, I could probably do this, or I could probably try this. If we don't find the host accessible, if we don't connect with them, we're not going to be inspired to try the products or the recipes or the entertaining suggestions or spend our money on it, let alone our time. The Meg has really already derailed this concept in a huge way with the whole ball gown in the mansion sort of a thing. That aesthetic is the wrong first impression, and first impressions are really hard to kick. They're so important. And so for Megan's lifestyle brand, if you can call it that, it's already far from relatable in any way. The second problem is that this is very much continuing on the theme that Archetypes had, and really every other project that she's done so far has, which is that every endeavor the Meg is doing is being used to answer some sort of criticism that has been leveled at her in the past. Notice I use criticism, not attack, because it's not baseless. People have come after Megan or criticized Megan because of very real things that she has done wrong, like lying about people on Oprah 17 times or more, and spewing exaggerated versions of events to try to make other people look bad, and even lying in a court case and having to apologize to the court because of her lies. These are the things that Megan has been criticized for. Therefore, they're warranted criticisms of her. There are good and real reasons for people not liking these sorts of behaviors or vibes that Megan has given off. It's not just some random attacks on Megan just because she's the Meg. But let's take a deeper look at this pattern of Megan's. For example, she was criticized heavily for her wardrobe choices. And in Netflix, she blamed it on the palace, that she wasn't allowed to wear certain colors due to the queen or the other royal ladies who were more senior than her, or just the palace in general weren't letting her wear the colors that she wanted to. And she made a big deal of it, saying that then last few engagements, she went for this rainbow of colors. Like, she made this big story that was really quite elaborate about the colors that she was forced to wear. And this has been proven false from like every single angle out there. Namely, most glaringly, is that she continues to pick beige and neutral colors now, years removed from official royal duties. But also, I have a video with an interview with somebody who was connected to royals dressing for official engagements and disproved it herself, that the queen has never told anybody what to wear or anything like that. And she famously, allegedly, even told Margaret Thatcher that the queen doesn't notice what other women wear. The queen was very much not bothered by what colors other people in the royal family wore. And if anything, the Meg was simply asked to follow color schemes once in a while for the sake of a nice family photo, and she repeatedly refused to do so. So this whole story that the Meg came up with about why she always wore bland colors was a complete and utter lie in every single way, and no part of it has ever been shown to be truthful. And so the whole motivation of this elaborate false story in Netflix from Meghan was to sort of refute this criticism about her wardrobe when she was with the royal family. The whole entire point of that elaborate, fabricated story was to address this criticism. Another example, you could look through the entire season of Archetypes. Every single episode was taking a criticism of the Meg, and most of the podcast was her bringing the guest's conversation back to her experience as being called this or that, and why it's not true or fair, which made the podcast completely boring and annoying to listen to, because by doing this, Megan did not allow the conversation to move forward or expand naturally. She just funneled it into defending herself at every single opportunity. So, how is this show going to be used to defend the Meg against unfair criticisms? By involving friendship. She has been called out for blatantly, obviously, directly, and publicly discarding friends and family members, including during her wedding. I'll link the video for you explaining it in more detail here, but she essentially orchestrated the lunch reception to be for the old group of friends and the dinner reception for the new group of friends. And this was something she just did, and it was known, public knowledge. She had no problem with discarding her old friends in this manner. And so this must be the Meg's next score to settle. Her image is as somebody who's not a good friend, who's a use and discard type of gal. And she's going to use this and weave friendship into this otherwise supposed to be about cooking show to change this narrative, at least in her view. This is really typical of narcissistic and toxic types of people. They almost like keep a list of sorts with any slights or stains on their image, and they'll do things to try to correct them or get even with those slights. They'll even do really impractical things. Like, for example, if somebody's been cut off in traffic, they'll go out of their way to follow that person and like yell at them or something, or cut that person off to get back at them or get even if it makes that person late for an important engagement or dinner or interview or something. It doesn't matter. The consequences are secondary to getting even with this person who maybe like cut them off or something, for example. So this is really no different than that same sort of a vibe. Meg is going to weave this narrative of friendship and being a good friend and give that impression in this show for the sole purpose of correcting this reputation that she now has. So that means that she's been investing time, at least the last few months, if not longer, in friendships just for this purpose. And we've seen it on Instagram, for example. There's a handful of people who have seemed to align with her a little bit more, who she's been seen with a little bit more. A few of them in these Instagram posts here and there over the last year or less are clearly the people she has chosen to invest in for the purpose of this show, because perhaps she thinks she can convince them to participate or do what she asks. Who knows? But make no mistake, once these episodes are filmed or once this series gets canceled or isn't renewed for another season, Meg will no longer have any need or use for this. She will have, in her mind, in her view, corrected this narrative by showing that she does too have some good friends. And if the prospect of the show is no longer there, she no longer needs to maintain them, and she will inevitably drop and discard those friendships once again. And this is what she's done for years, and it's what we have watched happen. This almost like love bombing or just communal narcissistic tactics where sort of building this reputation is, it's really impossible to ignore these tactics that she's been employing if you've ever seen it or been close to it or been through it before yourself. And by doing this, at least for a while, she's able to look like it's genuine. But eventually, it's clear that it was for self-gain. And here we can simply see what she has to gain by doing this. Clearly has quite a little bit to gain through making these friendships work for now. Most things, for the ever-shrinking audience that doesn't know much about Meghan Markle or her past manipulations, these sorts of things do tend to work, at least temporarily. She'll probably have a decent turnout at first, As we've said before, there will be a lot of morbid curiosity sorts of viewers, and a handful of sympathetic puff pieces will be published. As we've seen, there's just not enough behind all of this to keep these sorts of things going. There's not enough likability. Everything is overworked and overdone, and the manipulations always eventually come out. The things that universally don't tend to sit well with people will always be things like complaining from a place of immense privilege, lying and exaggerating to make loved ones look bad, or even to make beloved figures like Queen Elizabeth II look bad. Huge mistake. Or Catherine, Princess of Wales. Discarding of family and friends and a lack of authenticity, all of these things will turn away any audience she gains from her in a short period of time. She and Harry really did doom all their future adventures by doing Oprah and Spare and all those interviews. Till the Sussexes apologize, their image will forever be tied to petulance as ungrateful whiners. And that means their future endeavors will always have this sort of dark cloud of this history over them. And that history is incredibly unlikable, which means that everything has a really short shelf life. This show will probably be another one-off, one-season sort of a situation, if it ever happens at all. You really can't build something lasting with such a bad reputation as your starting point, no matter how many temporary friendships you curate to show on a pretentious TV show. But let's talk about the jam now. It is in line with some established, exclusive, celebrity-affiliated pantry goods. And yes, that is a thing. Take Flamingo Estate, for example. They have set up a collaboration of sorts with some celebrities in the greater Los Angeles area. A celebrity like Will Ferrell, for example, or in this case, you can see Tiffany Haddish. They have a garden and they allow Flamingo Estate to place their beehives there, or they have bees already. And then the honey is harvested and sold in an exclusive set of, you guessed it, 50 jars. Though these are sold at hugely inflated costs of at $200 to $250 a jar, the proceeds go to a charity of the celebrity's choice. Similar to Highgrove with King Charles and his jams. You can see here, the listing says, our friend Tiffany Haddish's garden is city bee territory, not the stomping grounds of those gentle folk singer hippie bees in Topanga. Tiffany's got green thumbs inherited from her grandmother and has planted trumpet flowers, blossoming thyme, and sweet potatoes. The hive location is central Los Angeles. The flavors are trumpet flower and thyme. The color, liquid sunshine. The taste, as fresh as Tiffany's SNL monologue. Proceeds benefit the She Ready nonprofit organization. We are honored that some of our lifelong heroes and icons have partnered with us, opening up their garden to our hives. 100% of proceeds going to a charity of their choice. So for those who actually purchase this really exclusive honey, jars 1 through 50, the money is mostly going to charity. And you see, the Meg got her 50 jars of jam idea from here, but it's yet to be seen whether she will have proceeds from sales go to charity or not. That would be a plus. There's no denying that, but currently there's no indication of that at this point. I do find it a bit odd that she put them in numbered jars just to send to like acquaintances, many of whom one might argue are more like notable or well-known or successful than she is. It's not like they're going to keep it as a collectible like Steven Spielberg's honey people might keep on a shelf forever to be like, look, Steven Spielberg sent me a jar of his honey. This is so amazing. This is so cool. It's not like that where it's somebody who's maybe like seen as more of an idol or like a really big figure in the industry, somebody important. So I'm not really sure I understand the motivation to number the jars other than exactly what it looks like, which is a sort of hierarchy of her acquaintances and a way to track the loyalty of these people, which is really weird. Once again, that's not how friendship works. Now, she could have just been, benefit of the doubt here, she could have just been sending them to friends with no intention of having them post it to Instagram or do any sort of marketing or teasing in the social media realm at all. Just as a gift, somebody who likes to bake might bake muffins and give them to a neighbor or a friend. But that's just not typically how things work this day and age, especially being sent out to people the way this has been. With Instagram and influencers especially paired up with the announcement of the launch of American Riviera Orchard just before the jam got sent out. So the timing of it is definitely suspicious. Obviously, anybody who received it was under the clear impression that it was an invitation or request to promote it on social media. Sometimes these baskets are even given a little card that says, if you choose to share it on social media, be sure to tag whatever tags and, the handle for the company or individual who sent it to you. Which the only way a recipient would take is as a sort of request, gentle request, suggestion to post it to your social media. This idea that this was all part of the marketing and a teaser for her brand is further verified by numbering the jars a la celebrity, charity, honey. If it was just a gift, then they wouldn't be numbered. There would be no need for it, and they wouldn't have aligned it with the teasing of her Netflix project either. And once again, this validates the pattern of her using her friends for gain. These acquaintances or friends she's begun investing time in is for a gain. It's so that she can be promoted through other people and other channels, which is something you kind of need to do if you're trying to launch something like this. Look at any other celebrity makeup or fragrance or collaboration or even book. They have their friends sent the product and their friends post it. So reasonably, everybody's first question was, who got the first jar? Who's number 5? Who's number 10? What's the order of importance in the MEG's eyes? And this is something you just simply wouldn't want to do to your friends. You wouldn't want the public speculating which friend was number 8 and which friend was number 48. You wouldn't want that for your friends if you were a good friend and cared about them, because that's not nice. Because even though it doesn't really matter, is jar 50 any less important than jar 2? Probably not. It's probably all from the same pot, but it looks that way by numbering them. So you would want to avoid that if you were being truly thoughtful of your friends. And so it all comes back to optics, and the optics of this jam rollout is bad. It makes it look like she's testing loyalty. It makes it look like she has a hierarchy of friends and acquaintances, and that she's using these people to promote her endeavors. But let me know what you think in the comments. I look forward to reading them, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you have a happy day, everybody. Bye!